Might take a little bit longer than normal, Jack, sorry.
Hello there. Performance issues, it's common in Jedi, 1 out of 5, but whatever.
Oh my god, you think I'm a Jedi? That's what I actually have.
So, essentially today what I'm going to be talking about is...
Jack, I'm sorry. But I'm very excited about this presentation there, my man.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess I'm too eager to get started. My name is Jack, online handle Metamorph Jack, and today I'm going to be going through the 7 forms of lightsaber combat with you today. So, we'll first start off with some context as to what is lightsaber combat. Well, lightsaber combat refers to several schools of martial arts that specialize in fighting with a lightsaber. And lightsaber-oriented combat styles that were most prevalent were the 7 forms developed by the Jedi Order. Those are Shicho, Makashi, Surisu, Ataru, Shien and Gemso, Naiman, and Juyo or Vapai. So, I'm going to break down each of these for you now. So, the first form, Shicho, is the determination form, or the way of the Sarlacc. Now, it involves basic attacks and parries, the kind of thing that you would see in very basic swordplay techniques that we have in the real world. And it also involves wide sweeping motions, as demonstrated by our top GIF here. It is optimal when facing multiple opponents, particularly with those wide sweeping motions. It's great for crowd control, but it is suboptimal against facing a single opponent, considering that there are more developed forms that can easily take down somebody who's using this very basic, simplistic one. Having said that, though, one can still specialize in this and refine it to a point where it is able to contend against greater forms. The second form is Makashi, the contention form, or the way of the Ysalamiri. It involves wrist flick, parries, and thrusts, along with feints and binds, and it is largely one-handed, but it is known to be employed with 2 hands as well. It is optimal against forms 1 and 6, but it is suboptimal against blasters and suboptimal against forms 4, 5, and 7. The reason being why it is so suboptimal against blasters is because this particular form is very much orientated around fighting another opponent who has a lightsaber. So this is all sword play, no blade, blast, bolt deflection, none of that, which we'll get into next. Form 3, Surisu, the resilience form or the way of the minor. Now this one, unlike Makashi, is actually developed specifically for deflecting blaster bolts and enemy lightsaber attacks, as you can see in the examples here. It involves frequent parries and efficient body movements to keep the target zones covered. It is optimal against blasters and optimal against forms 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The fourth form, Ataru, the aggression form, or the way of the Hawkbat. This one is fueled by momentum with its attacks, and it involves acrobatic maneuvers. It's optimal against Form 5, but suboptimal against Form 3. Reason being why it's suboptimal is because it involves a lot of energy. You're having to generate a lot of kinetic energy performing these moves, whereas somebody performing Surisu is just standing still for the most part, performing minimal movements. The first variant of Form 5 is Shien, the Perseverance form, or the Way of the Great Dragon. Now, it involves reflective parries, similar to Surisu, only these ones are intended to deflect blaster bolts directly back at their point of origin, making them lethal. It also involves agile footwork, so you're moving around a bit more as compared to standing still for the most part like Shien. Surisu. And it involves being optimal against blasters, that's what it was developed for, but it is sub-optimal against lightsabers. You can't use these moves against another saber, which is why the next variant was developed. So, Gemso is developed specifically for fighting against other sabers. It involves hacking cleaves and power blows, and solid two-hand blocks with grounded footwork. It is optimal against forms 1, 2, and 6, but suboptimal against form 3 and 4, and suboptimal against blasters. This one is strictly for facing off somebody else with another blade.
Yeah!
The 6th form, Naiman, the moderation form, or the Way of the Rancor, this one involves a mix of techniques from forms 2 through to 5, and it switches between each of these forms during combat, which can, if executed correctly, offset an opponent. It's a combination of blade work and force abilities, as you can see from these demonstrations here. They're both combined and executed into one sort of fluid motion. It's optimal against forms 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7, but suboptimal against form 2. The reason being is that form 2 is dedicated strictly to dueling, whereas Naiman is just pulling bits and pieces from other forms to form a new technique. So it doesn't quite hold up to somebody who's using a form dedicated strictly to dueling. The first variant of Juyo, being Juyo, the 7th form, is the ferocity form or the Way of the Bornsker. Now this one involves erratic maneuvers and rapid attacks. It's optimal against form 1, 2, 3, and 4, but suboptimal against form 5 and 6. Reason being is it doesn't have the same protective properties as form 4 and form 6, and it is also suboptimal against multiple opponents, given that this form doesn't have a very good defensive component. It doesn't have a whole lot of blocks involved. Some, but not as many as other forms. But this next variant of Form 7, Varpad, the ferocity form as well, this one has all the benefits of the first variant, but none of the weaknesses. This one is optimal against all of the forms 1 through 6. And as you can see there, Mace Windu, classic Samuel L. Jackson fashion, is managing to persevere with very considerable ease.
Woo! Samuel Jackson! Woo! Woo! Jackson! Woo!
Lightsaber combat.
Great Jackson!
If you've enjoyed anything that I've talked about so far, we've got my socials up there to see similar content if that's your thing.
Great Jackson!
Excellent. Now, I had a couple of questions. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I'm talking about Star Wars, and here, alright. Would a Jedi Knight know all the forms, or would they specialize in like 1 or 2?
Typically, when they are initiates and Padawans, they spend a little bit of time dabbling in each of the forms to sort of find their feet. And once they find something that they want to specialize in, they'll dedicate the rest of their study to that specific form.
True. That leads into my next bit. I don't know if it's necessarily a question, but I think there was a scene in, it's a shot in number 3, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting against, spoilers by the way, they're fighting against each other, and they're just spinning their lightsabers like around each other. I think when I first saw it, I was like, that's just a bit showy, it's a bit weird, but that has something more to do with the forms, right? They would have maybe both learnt of each other.
Yes, so in that scene, what Anakin's trying to do is he's trying to use a variant of Form 5, being Gemso. He's trying to use sort of hacking cleaves against Obi-Wan there. And Obi-Wan's readying himself with a sort of counter spin to deflect that with Sarisu, which is a form that he picks up in his later years when he's got the beard. So he learned from Qui-Gon's death that protecting yourself is more important than just flailing your lightsaber at the enemy. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. Brilliant. Alright, we only have 3 people